Should life insurance ever be owned by a trust? This is estate planning lawyer Michael Pevney, and I create estate plans for families in California. I own Pevney Estate Planning. Now, sometimes I get this question with clients. They say they have life insurance, and I want to put the life insurance into the trust. Now, we need to get a little bit of a basic understanding of what life insurance is and all the basic parties. Now, of course, life insurance is a financial instrument that pays a death benefit when somebody passes away. Now, that's the most basic definition of life insurance. There are three parties to any life insurance policy. There is the owner of the life insurance, there is the person whose life is insured, and then there is the beneficiary. Now, the owner of the policy is typically the person that's paying the premium, right, on that policy, and there's lots of different life insurance policies, term being the simplest and oftentimes the cheapest, and there are whole life policies, universal life policies, and there are some fancy ways of setting up financial investments using life insurance. But when we're talking about life insurance and trusts, and I'm talking about a revocable living trust, which is the type of trust that I set up for most of my clients, we do not have the trust own the life insurance policy. The life insurance policy is typically owned by an individual. So typically, we are going to have, if we have two spouses, one spouse is going to own the life insurance policy. It is their life that is going to be insured, so they'll be the owner and the insured person. And then oftentimes the beneficiary will be the person's spouse and vice versa. And we want to make sure that that premium gets paid every month. Now, there are some circumstances where we might not have an individual own a life insurance policy. This often comes up in business relationships. If there's a partnership or somebody owns a certain amount of shares, a business might actually own that life insurance policy. They might pay that life insurance policy, and so if one partner dies, the other partner is the beneficiary and is able to buy out the estate or the rest of the shares of that policy. That's kind of part of some buy-sell agreements of people that own businesses. So in that circumstance, sometimes we might have a business own a life insurance policy. Also, another circumstance where we might have a trust actually own a life insurance policy is when people have high assets. So if their net worth gets into, I'm going to say, 5, 10, $15 million or so, when there's a real danger of the estate tax kicking in, we might set up a special trust called an ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust, that actually is created for the express purpose of holding life insurance, especially if the person is a business owner and we want the business to pass smoothly to the next generation. This insurance policy will exist for the purpose of paying any estate taxes that are due after somebody passes away, so you don't have to break up or sell the business in order to pay those taxes. So that is one situation where we might actually have a trust own a life insurance policy. Now, for most of my clients, I do not do that. Most of my clients might own a home, maybe they have a small business or rental property, that sort of thing, and I typically recommend that they stay the owners of the life insurance policy. However, beneficiaries, we might want to make the trust a beneficiary of a life insurance policy. So it'll be owned by the individual. Maybe that same individual is probably the insured party, meaning it's their life that is being insured. Then when they pass away, sometimes the beneficiary might not be a spouse or might not be kids directly, especially if those kids are under 18. So what we do is sometimes we will make the trust the beneficiary of the life insurance policy. So then the money will flow into that trust, which is a legal entity that is kind of like a bucket that money flows into and has to get distributed in the way that we set up. They are so flexible flexible and we have so much control over a trust when we initially set it up before you pass away. And then after you're gone, once that life insurance goes in to the trust, it has to be distributed in the way that we decided when we initially set up that trust. This is especially important when it comes to children. So we don't necessarily want a $500,000, $1 million, $2 million life insurance policy going to a kid as soon as they turn 18 without any strings attached, because that means they can do whatever they want with that money. But when we have that set up with a trust, what we can do is put guardrails along that money and how it is spent. We can have the trust pay for their basic needs, so their health, education, maintenance, and support as they grow up. And then maybe we can put some incentives in there, like if they did get a degree, they get a certain chunk of money. When they reach a certain age, they get a certain chunk of money. Or we can leave that money in the trust the entire time, only to be used for the benefit of those children, which can actually protect those children from a spouse that might be financially abusive or that they don't have a great relationship. It can protect them from things like bankruptcy or lawsuits. It can protect them from things like even substance abuse issues and make sure that they get some sort of help or treatment before they have access to any of this money. So, to sum up, life insurance typically with my clients is not owned by a trust. It's owned by an individual, but I will oftentimes have the trust become the beneficiary of those life insurance policies, so it can be distributed in the way that we set out when we initially wrote that trust. If you have any questions about this or living trusts or how life insurance should be the beneficiary of living trusts, you can set up a time to speak with me for a free estate planning strategy session if you live in California at ocestateplanlawyer.com. Thanks for your time and thank you for your attention.